Chapter 13, Missed Opportunities. No topic draws more fire from Clinton defenders, no scandal has provoked the same sort of response from the former president, and no subject is potentially as damning to the Clinton legacy as the missed opportunities to catch or kill Osama bin Laden. The multiple failures has disastrous consequences for America, leaving us only to ponder, did Clinton do enough? This chapter begins in 1998 following the embassy bombings in Kenya and Tanzania. U.S. officials had been aware of bin Laden for years and had monitored him going back to 1995 and 1996 when he lived in the Sudan. In the wake of the embassy bombings, the Clinton administration decided to send a message. Up to their eyeballs in the Lewinsky scandal, they decided to try and kill bin Laden, or at the very least send him a message by firing missiles against camps in Afghanistan and a pharmaceutical plant in the Sudan, where reports said bin Laden was having components of chemical weapons built. But of course, the mission failed spectacularly. The pharmaceutical plant in Khartoum turned out to be just that, an aspirin factory. And the attacks on the camps in Afghanistan may have been compromised because the Clinton administration alerted Pakistan to the strikes before they happened, since the Tomahawks had to cross Pakistani airspace. The 9/11 Commission report includes speculation that someone in the Pakistani government may have tipped bin Laden off. The Wag the Dog airstrikes of 1998 were the highest profile missed opportunity to get bin Laden, but by no means was it the only one. In February of 1999, the CIA received reports that bin Laden was spotted at one of several desert camps south of Kandahar in Afghanistan. The 9/11 Commission report recounts what happened. Reporting from the CIA's assets provided detailed descriptions of the hunting camps, including its size, location, resources, and security, as well as bin Laden's smaller adjacent camp. Since the camp was in the desert, a missile strike seemed like the obvious course of action. But the CIA also detected the presence of an airplane at the camp belonging to the royal family from the United Arab Emirates. White House terrorism advisor Richard Clarke told the 9/11 Commission that along with CIA Director George Tenet, they decided against a strike that might kill a member of the royal family of a close ally in the region. Clarke also wasn't convinced that it was a terrorist camp at all.
When I looked at this facility, it looked to me like the intelligence was again poor, because it didn't look like a terrorist camp. And the probability of collateral damage would have been high, I thought, since I believed, based on the satellite photography, that people other than terrorists were there.
Gary Schroen, the top CIA official on the ground, disagreed, telling the 9/11 Commission that this was a missed opportunity to kill bin Laden. But it gets worse. Not long after the attack was called off, Clarke called the United Arab Emirates to complain about reports that members of the government were associating with bin Laden. Not long after, the 9/11 Commission report says the hunting camp near Kandahar was disbanded. CIA officials told the Commission that tipping the UAE off could have cost more opportunities to get Osama bin Laden. More than a year later, the CIA would have another opportunity to kill the terrorist leader. This time it was the fall of 2000, and aerial drones flying over Afghanistan snapped this photo of a man believed by many to be Osama bin Laden. This photo was first made public by NBC News in March of 2004, and Richard Clarke also wrote about it in his book, Against All Enemies, published around the same time. From the camera images on 3 flights, I am convinced that I was looking at bin Laden, Clarke wrote. But once again, why wasn't anything done? Clarke says there was no submarines or other military assets in the area to do anything about it. Even though the U.S. government had been searching for bin Laden for years, the Clinton administration wasn't prepared to act. They still wanted bin Laden captured and not killed. According to CIA officials, that reduced the odds of getting bin Laden at all from 50% to about 25%. The record seems clear. The chances were there, but years later, the Clinton spin machine is still trying to make the world believe that he did all he could. Maybe that's why former National Security Advisor Sandy Berger was caught trying to remove secret documents from the National Archives before the 9/11 Commission could see them. The documents pertain to Clinton administration policy about bin Laden. Maybe that also explains the Clintons' attacks on the ABC miniseries The Path to 9/11, in which Sandy Berger, Richard Clark, and CIA Director George Tenet are portrayed as being unwilling to kill bin Laden when they had the chance. We reported this story on this very program earlier this year and showed you the portion of the scene deleted by ABC after the former president and his allies screamed bloody murder.
It's been confirmed that Osama bin Laden is in the building on the site.
Did you hear what he said? There are women and children nearby. How close are they? Can we clear them?
We need to go now.
This is the nature of intelligence, sir. We rarely get perfect information. We do the best that we can with what we know.
What do we know, Patricia?
We know that the special action team has pinpointed the target. We know enough to try. Now, excuse me, sir. You are the National Security Advisor. Can't you give the order?
Look, George, if you feel confident, you can present your recommendation to the president yourself.
So if it all goes bad, it comes down on my head like Janet Reno in Waco. The buck stops down the hall.
That scene was a dramatization of a decision made by the administration in 1998 not to go through with a CIA plan to capture bin Laden in Afghanistan. The plan is described by the 9/11 Commission report and called for a joint operation with tribal Afghans. But at the last minute, the operation was deemed too risky by Tenet, Berger, and Clark. 3 months later, the embassies in Africa were bombed. Even the president himself has injected himself into the spin cycle, lashing out at Fox's own Chris Wallace during an interview in September of 2006.
ABC just had a right-wing conservative running their little pathway to 9/11, falsely claiming it was based on the 9/11 Commission report, with 3 things asserted against me directly contradicted by the 9/11 Commission report.
More than 6 years after the 9/11 attacks and 10 years after we started to hunt him, Osama bin Laden is still on the loose. So how will another Clinton administration face these same sorts of threats? Will it be any different? Will the same excuses be used for failure? For these reasons, this is another Clinton chapter that just won't seem to close.